Welcome, sports fans. My name is IGGYSPORTSTALK. You can call me Jake Iggy or Iggy for short. And this is Iggy's Sports Talk. So, it's another week with no sports going on. And I feel like I just keep on saying the same thing over and over again each week that I do this podcast. I'm sorry if you are listening to multiple podcasts in a row and you hear me saying the same exact thing, but I am just dying and waiting for sports to come back. And I understand COVID's still kind of going on and everybody's still very scared about bringing sports back. But more than ever, I believe that America needs sports, and mostly baseball. America's sport, America's national pastime needs to come back. And I cannot wait for things to start rolling out and for plans to actually starting to be implemented. And luckily, Rob Manfred said today, while I'm recording this, that Major League Baseball is 100% having a season in 2020. And if the Major League Association, Players Association, and the MLB don't agree, that Rob Manfred is going to implement a shorter season, probably like 50 games or something like that. But I hope everybody has been staying safe, positive. It's been a very stressful time in America over this last week. And I don't like to get too political on this podcast. It's mainly an entertainment, fun sports podcast where we mainly talk about sports. But I feel like sports has kind of been at the forefront of a lot of this racial stuff as well. And I just wanted to sort of say the message of, in my opinion, everybody was created equal. Everybody should have the same exact rights. In my opinion, we all are red inside. It doesn't matter if you're black, yellow, if you have stripes on your skin. It really does not matter. Everybody has a heart. Everybody's human. And I think that there just needs to be a change in the system. And I don't think that I'm the only person who believes that. So after we get off that subject, I wanted to get into a little bit of a lighter subject where we're able to talk about a funny sort of situation that happened to the guest that I am having on today. So his name is Darren, Georgia, and he got viral last year from, in my opinion, and a lot of people might agree with me, but 50 Cent has this pretty well up there with the worst first pitch ever. And Darren, Georgia, got hit by a baseball as a photographer by the woman Mary Ruich, who threw the first pitch. She was a White Sox employee, and she won the Employee of the Month. And she threw out the first pitch, didn't have any warm-up pitches or anything, and hit Darren right in the camera. Let's watch a video of that real quick. So what did you guys think? In my opinion, that was nuts. I mean, it's something where if you're watching the video portion of this, and just for everybody that listens to the podcast on a regular, I am going to start recording video portions of each podcast. So you can go over to my YouTube. It's Jake Iggy. And if you want the link, you can either search it into the URL box on your Internet Explorer or Google Chrome, or you can go onto my Instagram, which is Iggy's Sports Talk, and I am going to have all the links right on there. But if you want to watch the video portion of it as well, you can go over to YouTube and watch that. But definitely, if you're listening to the audio portion, go and watch that video because it is hilarious. And it's something where you're like, did that just happen? Like, did the ball just come out sideways out of her hand? And we're going to hear all about Darren's experience through going viral, and he's also going to explain that situation a little bit better. But I'm also going to ask him about how at a young age he was able to get involved with the MLB and also the NHL as a photographer. And I'm also going to have him explain not only how difficult it's been to be a photographer during COVID-19, but how he was able to get his photos out there and get them noticed to become a very good photographer and very well-known photographer, and somebody who has become very successful over the last few years in professional sports photography. So let's go and listen to the interview that I had with Darren. So today, guys, I have a very special guest on with me. His name is Darren Georgia. He's a Chicago-based photographer. He works for the Chicago Bears and also the Chicago White Sox. And if you want to go over and look at any of Darren's work, you can go over to darrengeorgiaphotography.com. So how's it going, Darren?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So I'm just curious, like as a photographer, how has it been during this whole pandemic and what has been your experience like?
Well, it's obviously an unsure time for a lot of photographers and just people in the creative industry. There's a lot of people who are losing jobs because of it. So it's a difficult time for a lot of people, but it's all about perspective and, not letting it defeat you, finding new opportunities, trying to stay creative, stay active in the community, and just doing anything you can to really push forward.
Right. And I mean, especially with COVID and everything, everybody obviously wants to stay the 6 feet apart. And so like, have people been weird about like being willing to shoot with you or just in general wanting to be around you? Cause you're mainly in Chicago. So like for me, I'm in rural New Hampshire where I don't really have to be around too many people, but with you close to the city and stuff, have people been sort of weird?
It depends. I mean, I know that there's a lot of photographers out there looking for work, and I think work is still available. There's definitely ways that you can still safely go about, the work. There's longer lenses if you need it. There's different spaces. And I think as long as you're being safe and smart about it, there's still people who are in need of photography services. So I definitely think there's ways around it. As long as you're creative and smart, then why not? People need to work and people need creative services. So just really expanding upon that and making sure that you're following the latest guidelines and everything. So.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And it's kind of funny because I have a good friend who just started a photography business and he decided to do like family portraits where he would have people sit on their front steps. And he's like, listen, I'm going to stand at the back of the grass or where your driveway is so we can be all safe. But it was something where I felt really bad for him because he just started this business and he's like, shoot, nobody's going to want to be around me and that sort of stuff. But with all this stuff going on, like what hobbies have you been able to pick up and sort of what have you been able to do to, fill in your time?
It's a great question. I mean, obviously I have a lot more free time during baseball season. There's really not much time working just about every day. So this is really the first summer in a while where I've had time to really kind of ponder this, especially since there's not a lot of stuff open here. So continuing to shoot where I can, trying to pick up new skills. Obviously, being a photographer, it's mainly still images, but video is becoming a very prevalent thing. And if you're somebody who can do both photo and video, that looks good to a lot of companies. So really trying to brush up my skill set in that area. And also just doing some writing, working on a few different projects just to it's just another creative outlet, whether it becomes something or not. I don't, really care if it does or not, but it's something that's just another creative outlet to really kind of address the situations that are going on and kind of tell my story as well.
Right. And looking at your website, you don't only do sports photography. Like some of the landscape pictures that I saw you did, some of the city pictures that you did were just like unreal. And it's something where I used to fiddle around and see if I could get like cool landscape pictures with like sunsets and that sort of stuff. But some of the focus still films that you were able to get, like just some like the splashes in the water, I was like, holy crap, like that takes a lot of experience to be able to get those sort of incredible pictures.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, photography started as a hobby for me. When I moved to Chicago, it was just straight up on my iPhone. And then as I shot more and photographed more, you realize that Instagram, this was kind of right around when Instagram really started becoming a thing. Mm-hmm. I would say that there is a difference between Instagram photographers and actual photographers. Everybody has a camera at their disposal now. So really trying to set out and figure out what makes you different. It's tough to do. I mean, there was a long time where I was looking up to a lot of photographers of, trying to copy their style, trying to take a similar shot as theirs, as inspiration, not necessarily to try and steal their creativity. Mm-hmm. And from there, it's all self-taught. I eventually got like a small, point and shoot camera. Then it went into DSLR. And then just through various networking opportunities and hard work, I found myself in the career that I'm in now. So.
Yeah, that must have been like an incredible sort of roller coaster for you because me myself, I'm going into my senior year of college, and my goal is to be a sports reporter, and that's something that I've heard from absolutely everybody is all you got to do is find a way to differentiate yourself. You know, everybody's trying to do the same thing you are, so do everything you can to not only, you know, don't try and reinvent everything. You know what I mean? So, sort of what you talked about, like not trying to copy what they did or the people that you aspire of, just taking some of the stuff that you like that they do and make it your own and be creative within that sort of stuff. And so, especially with photography, it's something where I was curious if you had a tough time finding a way to get your photos noticed and sort of, you know, like from a broad perspective, like get them noticed on Instagram and that sort of stuff, just compared to other people's.
It's hard. I mean, you go through trial and error and you learn a lot. I mean, obviously, I feel like a lot of photographers do this. I did it myself where, you know, you kind of go through the obnoxious tagging everybody, a million hashtags, doing what you got to do to get your work in front of different audiences.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's big accounts that feature different photos. And, you know, at a certain point, you come to realize that it's not necessarily about the likes and getting your work in front of people. Obviously, if your work is good, it's going to speak for itself and it's going to get noticed. So it's really, and I think for our generation and younger, it's really easy to get caught up in the likes, the follows, the social media aspect of it. Like that's all they want is the attention from it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But in order to really stand out, you just have to have good work. Everybody can get a good quality camera, even on your iPhones, take good quality pictures now. So what are you going to do to kind of find your voice and set yourself apart from everybody else? I mean, like I said, if it was a message that I could give as easy as it is to get caught up in the likes and the comments and the social aspect of it, if you really want to make something of it, you're going to have to work a little harder and focus on different aspects as well.
That makes sense. I mean, I feel like everybody gets so caught up in the likes and comments and just how many people are viewing your content. It's something where, right.
I got caught up in that myself. I was the same way. I would be hypocritical of me to preach that without having gone through it. I mean, I was the exact same way.
I mean, I think it's great that Instagram took off the likes so you don't have to, because I would always get so anxious. Oh, shoot, on this post, I got 30 likes on, you know, compared to like 15 that I just got. Did I do something wrong? And it could just be the algorithm isn't working right, or you posted at a different time or something like that. But I feel like with any aspect of like a desired job or something that you're really shooting for that you put on social media, sort of talking about what you said is all about just getting the experience and getting better each time, and to not focus on solely the views, the likes, how many people are looking at it, but how you're growing and sort of looking at it in that sense of the way. But I mean, you were really able to get your career off the ground in March of 2017, and you were able to get hired by Major League Baseball as a live content creator. And I was curious, how were you able to get that opportunity?
It was through networking. I mean, in Chicago, there's a great network of photographers here, and our tourism board used to have this influencer program, which, to the point of social media, like as much as I just like to discredit the likes and comments, social media is a great way to get your work noticed. I mean, social media is the reason that I have my career today. I didn't go to school for it. I didn't just randomly apply. It was just through networking and opportunities. And so through this tourism board, they were partnered with the White Sox, where, you get a credential and 2 tickets to the game. You go do your thing. They want to see your creativity. And if they like it, they'll use you on your social media and tag you and credit you, which I think is a great opportunity because, the White Sox are a great organization, and this was a kind of a great opportunity for a lot of people. And I understand that's not doable for every sports team possible, but it was a great way to kind of liven up their Instagram. It's because everybody was still figuring out Instagram and stuff. And so I enjoyed that so much. I signed up for, as many games as I could, went to as many as I could. And then eventually I actually moved back to Colorado just because I wasn't sure where I was going with it. And then the person who had the job before me had to leave. And so they asked if I was interested in doing it. I applied and got the job. And I think it's been, 4 years now with MLB. So
That's pretty cool. And I'm just curious, like, what team did you grow up like really, really looking up to or rooting for as a kid?
that's funny. I grew up in Colorado. I did like the Rockies, but I was a big Cardinals fan. Albert Pujols was my favorite player. That is very interesting. I get a lot of sly comments from that. But I would say,
how can you beat it? That's with Jim Edmonds, with Scott Rowland.
they were a great team. Yeah,
I have MVP 2005. I always play as the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were a great team, and so it was mainly Pujols was the reason. I mean, he was just a great player to look up to as a kid.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, just last year I was in St. Louis for his return, covering his return to St. Louis, and that was like, I mean, that was my childhood dream come true. Never in a million years did I think I would be standing next to somebody I grew up idolizing. So, I mean, that's what this opportunity has provided, great experiences like that for me. I will say, though, now I do have my allegiance to my Chicago teams. I am a big White Sox fan. Working with the Cubs has also been great. Their team is just fantastic to work for. I think working in baseball makes you realize that it's hard to hate on teams. There's people who are very passionate about teams that they hate, but I just am in love with the sport. I will live and die by the sport. So, it's an honor that I get to even cover it. So,
yeah, that must be like, especially being able to be next to Albert Pujols and like, just like going back in time of like, wow, like I idolize this guy. I mean, it's something where that's like the main reason why this is like my dream is to work in sports, is to have those sort of experiences and to be closer to the sport. Because I grew up playing baseball and I was never the best, but I always wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. And so any way, shape or form that I'd be able to get close to the game, is a win for me. But I completely agree with you. But if you look behind me, I'm a big Red Sox fan. But even just in the sense of the Yankees, I mean, when I'm a fan watching the game, obviously, like, I'm a Yankee hater. But like when I'm like a reporter, like I just think about, like, with all the injuries that the Yankees have, how are they going to be this year? Is Garrett Cole going to be like the same guy that was? You know what I mean? I just try and like look at it from like an MLB bias and sort of take that hatred out of it. But I mean, especially as a photographer, like, you sort of have to find creative ways to show each team, and especially with like the Cubs and the White Sox, when you were able to shoot them, they were two up and coming teams, young teams where they were really exciting. And so I'm curious on what sort of ways did you find fun being able to show those different sides of those teams?
Well, I mean, I think I've come to realize that shooting sports, it's not my job to like get excited and play favorites or that sort of thing. It is easy to get caught up in the moment. I will say that there's obviously times that, you do get excited, and that's good. I think that's good to have, because that means you're passionate about what you're doing. But there's a way to do it about, being professional. You're respecting the player. The players are people too. They don't want to be bothered. Just because you're a fan of them doesn't give you the right to just shove your camera in their face and be like, oh, I need their picture.
Exactly.
So it's about learning boundaries and limits with all of that. But I would say that, each team, they tell their stories differently. They are different on social media. Each team has their own strategies, their own plans. And so you really want to try and cater to that. You also want to tell a story. I mean, the great thing about working in sports is that it's such an unpredictable thing to cover. You don't know what's going to happen. It could be the first time something like this ever happens. It could be the last time. It could be, another great moment in history that you're witnessing firsthand. So to be able to tell that story, I think that's what drives my love for sports photography. I mean, when I was starting in photography, I didn't know where I was going to go with it. I just thought it was going to be a hobby to pick up. But sports is such a unique opportunity that I think brings a lot of people together. And so being able to tell that story and capture things that may never happen again is something that's exciting to me.
Yeah, definitely. And something where like, especially thinking about the whole job of like sports photography, I was curious just like mainly from the MLB side, because I know that you've also worked in the NFL as well, but just like mainly on the MLB side, like what is sort of like a normal day for like a photographer in the MLB? Because I know obviously with like players, they show up, they get ready for the game and that sort of stuff. And you can say the same thing for the broadcasters, but like, I'm just curious, like, do you get there early? Do you get there usually when the players get there? Do you take pictures during warm-ups? Like, sort of, how does your day go?
I mean, it really depends. It's a long season, so if you're covering a lot of games, it can be a lot. But if you're like me, I mean, I love being at the ballpark, so I'm always there 3-4 hours early. You want to get there before BP starts, get everything set up, make sure that you're good, that you have everything, batteries are charged, memory cards, all that stuff. I'd say, given on who you're working for and all that, it's going to differ. But for me, getting there early, whether I have to cover BP or not, I just like it because it gives me a chance to get my warm up in, so to speak, take pictures of them warming up, kind of get into the routine of like, them fielding ground balls, them hitting. It sounds dumb, but like, A, I just love it. B, it helps you get mentally prepared for the game as well. And BP is just a great time to kind of watch the players be themselves. I mean, there's hardly any fans in the stadium, if at all. You're really seeing the players be their true selves, which I think is great, and capturing that out of respect of like, I'm not taking pictures of every single thing they do, but if I find something inspiring, then of course I want to capture it, because we're also developing content for the players themselves. We want, or at least me personally, you want to give them something that they can appreciate and share as well.
Right. And I'm just curious, especially being able to be around all these different teams, and there's been you've spent a lot of time just specifically with the White Sox, but like being around all these different players, like have you been able to like make any sort of relationships or like, have you been able to make any sort of relationships with any of the players or any of the coaches or something?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say like, I'm out there trying to become best friends with the players. Like, they know me because, I'm there a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously the story with the first pitch that kind of brought a lot of attention, but I get that question asked a lot. And it's a weird question because, obviously everybody who sees me in this position automatically will assume that I'm friends with the players. They're all great guys. I love being around them. I think that it's fun just to see them be themselves and realize that they are actual human beings, and that I'm not there to just shove my camera in their face, being respectful of their space, not running up to them every time I see them. It's just a thing that I'm grateful to be there. Right. You don't want to do anything to like ruin that experience, and you don't want to do anything that will upset them. My job is to tell the story, and I'm there for that. If a player says hi, if, they ask how you're doing, of course I'm going to respond. But I think that's a thing that might, a lot of young people wanting to be sports photographers, they get really excited. I used to be really excited and try and get the best players and all this stuff, but right. They're just people. I guess that's my main message from that. But both teams are great guys. They're guys being guys. They're doing what they love. I'm doing what I love. So, yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, especially with like wanting to be professional, you don't want there to be any sort of player getting uncomfortable or anything like that. And you, like you said, you just want to get them in their personality. So if you're distracting them in any way, you're not able to get like their true self and sort of just take a picture of their abstract like moves and like that sort of stuff. Because actually I saw one of the pictures of Yohan Moncada, of him like pointing like that, and I was like, oh, that must have been really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's great when they're comfortable around you, and if you're pointing your camera at everything that they're doing, they're not going to be comfortable around you because they want to have some private aspects of their life too. Who am I to judge what that is? Right. Being around them, you get to know kind of their personalities, and you see when they're in a good mood, and you can take advantage of those opportunities. And, maybe there are opportunities where it's, I don't want to say uncomfortable, but if, they're upset about a loss or something like that, it is our job to capture that stuff, but in a respectful way, I would hope. From everything I've learned, just being respectful is the main thing.
Right.
Don't be annoying. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, exactly.
That
I,
sort
I
of
mean,
thing.
especially after a loss, I think if like just I remember how upset I would get after a baseball game if somebody shoved a camera in my face. I would think about it for, or maybe not even in the moment. I would just hit it and not even think about how much that camera cost. I would just be so upset. But like at the same time, like you said, you just got to be respectful.
Yeah.
But you said that you were able to like witness the game where Pujols went back to St. Louis. But I was just wondering, was there any games where you were able to witness some incredible moments where like after the game you were like, wow, I was there for that?
I mean, for me, the most exciting games are walk-offs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's exciting, but at the same time, you're like, man, I hope this doesn't drag on until 4 a.m. at an extra inning game or whatever.
Right.
Which obviously now I would kill for an extra inning game until 4 a.m. But there's nothing exciting about, or nothing more exciting than a do or die moment, right? Like, this is it. You got 2 outs. There's a runner on second. You could end the game here. Gatorade splashes are always fun. As far as specific moments, I mean, getting to see Jose Abreu do the cycle, covering some playoff games. Those atmospheres are just absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, I would say each game has special memories, even if it's a dull game where there's really not much going on. Those games are easy to just kind of take back and at least appreciate where you're at and what you're doing.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's been like really tough for me to not have anything competitive going on. I even found myself like 2 weeks ago watching a Korean baseball game. I'm like, what is happening right now? But I needed something competitive, and I saw like a first pitch strike, and I was like, oh my God, he threw a strike. And I'm like, and any other day that baseball would be going on, it would just look like a regular pitch to me. But I'm just wondering, like, how's your experience been through all these negotiations, and like, have they been keeping you updated and stuff? And have you been like watching as closely as I guess most MLB fans are, just hoping that one of the proposals will actually be accepted?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the hope is to get back as soon as possible. I don't know anything, unfortunately. And even if I did, I probably wouldn't be allowed to comment on it.
Right.
Look, I get, and it's not really my place. Obviously, there's 2 sides to every story. Everybody wants to get baseball back as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But, in my mind, there's a lot more pressing stuff going on right now. As much as I want baseball to come back, I think everybody just wants to rush back. Obviously, everybody wants baseball back, but, everything has a time, everything has a purpose. So when it's back, I'm ready and I'll be there. And until then, do whatever I can to continue my craft and continuing my work, whether it's portrait photography, wedding photography, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And when sports comes back, I'll welcome it with open arms and go from there.
Exactly. I think right now in America, baseball is much needed. People need something to root for. People need something to get excited about. And lucky for you, and I guess lucky for all MLB fans. I don't know if this means too much, but Rob Manfred said that it's a 100% chance that the MLB is coming back on SportsCenter this afternoon. So that made me happy, at least.
It's hopeful. I mean, I am definitely optimistic. I'm an optimistic person, and obviously, would love for baseball to come back. So we'll see what happens. If for whatever reason it doesn't, yes, it's upsetting, but I would say just be optimistic and have faith, and eventually baseball is going to come back whenever that may be. We've got Korean baseball. There's other sports that'll hopefully come back. And
mm-hmm.
Sorry, I really don't want to comment too much just because it's not really my place to say anything. So
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on with that situation with money and that sort of stuff. And I obviously I really appreciate everything you've already said about the subject. And it's something where it's just a very confusing sort of situation. And especially with everything that's going on with COVID, you just want to make sure not only the players, but everybody that is within the sport is as safe as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I was just curious as well, like you were able to get an opportunity with the NFL. So you were able to work for both leagues. And so like, I was curious, like, were you like a big fan growing up? So since you grew up in Denver or Colorado, were you a big Denver Broncos fan?
I was, yeah, still am big Broncos fan, but the Bears are also a team that has my heart as well. I had the opportunity to work one season with the NFL, which was great. The Bears social team enjoyed working with me and eventually just offered to hire me just to cover stuff for the Bears, which was fantastic. Covering two teams is great, but it's a lot easier to focus on one team and get the best content possible when it's just the one team. And the Bears are a great organization. They're a fun team. And football is another great sport. I mean, I would say baseball is my obviously favorite sport, but working NFL games is unlike anything I've ever experienced. So,
Why's that?
I mean, the crowds, it can get so loud, regardless of how the team is going, no matter where you're at, the crowds get so loud. And I think my first season, Bears are making a playoff run. That stadium was so loud that I couldn't hear myself talk at a normal volume. And that is a sound unlike anything else like I've ever heard.
Were you there during that playoff game?
I was. It was a very heartbreaking moment, I think, for a lot of people in Chicago.
Right.
But it's sports. I mean, I think that's what makes them so exciting is they will either make you jump for joy or break your heart.
Exactly. I felt so bad for the kicker during that game. But I mean, I completely agree with you with the whole sort of, with sports. I think sports is unlike anything else. And it's something where a lot of people don't really understand why I get so emotional sometimes with sports, because I can remember just back a few months, there was a game where Paul Goldschmidt, he went back to the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he just tipped his cap, and you could see he was getting all choked up. And I got choked up myself because I just remember watching him starting off with the Diamondbacks, and it's just the whole emotion of the standing ovation. You wouldn't think, you would just look at it so plain view of what people are clapping for him, but with the emotion of the city, the fans, and just all the adrenaline, it's something in my opinion, nothing else. But especially with the NFL, with no fans, it's going to be crazy this next season. And I thought about especially when they do the flyover on Sunday Night Football, or during any game, it's just going to be all empty. It's going to be so weird.
Yeah, I mean, I think regardless of how and when sports comes back, obviously, if they come back with no fans, when they come back with no fans, it's still going to be a very emotional thing for a lot of people. But as soon as fans are welcome back, I think that's going to be an experience where every stadium is going to be just about sold out. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a very emotional time for a lot of people. And I get emotional thinking about it. I miss that atmosphere so much. And, when you're covering baseball that has 100 and some odd games a year, it can get exhausting where you're like, all right, another game. But definitely we'll never take that for granted again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just curious, you always see, especially in NFL games, I guess it only happens in the end zone and that sort of stuff, but you see photographers get bulldozed over during a big play. Have you had any players get close to almost tackling you?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen any recently where, somebody actually gets hit. But I mean, it's a lot of, you just have to be really aware of your surroundings. Because I don't think I would survive a hit by a 300-pound lineman on the sidelines.
Especially Khalil Mack or something like that, just bulldozes into you and, shoot, sorry, I can't make it to the next few games. I got a hurt leg or something like that.
Definitely. But yeah, I think it comes with the job. You just have to be aware and sort of that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so you touched on this a little bit earlier in the podcast, but something happened where you became a little bit famous. It was back in 2019. It was May 28th, and there was a White Sox employee. Her name was Mary Ruich, and she was rewarded with throwing the first pitch for winning the Employee of the Month. And there was a moment where she threw it, and the ball went right towards your camera and hit your lens. And it was just a flashback of the 50 Cent first pitch throw. And a lot of people have been saying, oh, that's the worst first pitch that we've ever seen. But I was curious, just how many times did people ask you if she broke your camera after that whole incident?
I mean, it was crazy. It was kind of a whirlwind of 24 hours. It was just a normal day. We were a doubleheader. And the reason that I think a lot of people don't understand is that was in between two games. And so we had to get the second game started. We were on a time crunch. So they didn't, she showed up to the stadium that day not knowing she was even going to throw out a first pitch. And there's a lot of pressure thrown out the first pitch. I mean, I've seen hundreds of first pitches thrown. It's it's a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And, right before, they're telling her, go on, throw the pitch, come off the field, because we do have to get the next game started. And I was already pretty out of it, pretty tired already. So I didn't even know what happened when it happened. I was just like, oh, that was weird. Go get the picture and get off the field. And my boss, the team photographer for the White Sox, he was like, that's gonna go viral. And I was like, no, I don't think anybody really saw it. And then, everybody was asking if the camera was broken. It was weird. I mean, obviously I didn't see it coming, but
Right.
Luckily the camera survived. I think the flash broke, but that was just a minor repair. So.
And how many pictures were you able to get during like that whole pitch?
It's just the one. I mean, we go out because it's supposed to be like a memorable item for them. So,
Mm-hmm.
We go out, make sure the lighting's, and our goal is to get one shot for them to remember it by, right? So yeah, a lot of people expected to have a photo of the ball coming right at the camera, but unfortunately I was just taking the one shot right before she released it.
That makes sense. I was curious, like, because all I thought about is, wow, he must have been like kind of mad that like that happened. Like, was that another big question that you got? Like, were you mad that she threw it?
Oh, not at all. I mean, and Mary is one of the nicest ladies I've met. I mean, she's very sweet. She brought me a cake and cookies the next day.
That's awesome.
She had no malintent behind it. There was no, it wasn't like she was out to get me or anything. She's a great person, and she won Employee of the Month for a reason. So, it was just one of those funny situations. You can't get mad at it. If you get mad at it, you just, I don't know. I don't think it's anything to get mad over. It was a funny moment, and I'm glad it brings a smile to a lot of people's faces. I still laugh at it every time I see it. So,
I mean, it's something where I saw the video, I was like, holy crap. And then I remember I showed my mom, she's like, how did the ball go that way?
A lot of people had that question. I don't know either, but obviously, clearly I wasn't expecting it. That had never happened before.
Right. And so like you said that she gave you a cake after. I was curious, like, was that a big surprise to you? Like, did she bring it in? Were you like, wow, I wasn't expecting that?
Yeah. I mean, and obviously she didn't have to do it either. I think she felt bad because obviously if you see on the video, she just runs off after it happens. And people were like, I can't believe she didn't check up on you, that sort of thing. Like I said, we were being rushed off the field. I also was fine. I was okay. There was no need to check up on me. So, but it was a wild, unlike anything I've ever experienced before. Going viral is something I don't think I've foreseen.
And so what was the reaction? And like you said, it was a crazy 24 hours, but like during like that whole week after it, were there like people texting you, like friends of friends being like, wow, I saw you on TV. Like, so how did that like all sort of roll out?
Yeah. I mean, obviously the text started rolling in as soon as the video was out there. At first, when it first happened, it was text from people who were in the park and, coworkers who saw it. And word travels very quickly after that. I mean, as soon as it's out there, it goes everywhere. So, a lot of interview requests and stuff, but we did hold a press conference the next day just talking about it. It was wild. I've never experienced anything like it.
And that's awesome. And like, I'm curious, like over like the year or so, like how has it been brought up to you a lot, and how has it like kind of changed like your career in any way, shape, or form?
I mean, I wouldn't say that it's, I'm all of a sudden this world-renowned photographer by any means, but, people know me as that guy. It's not like oh my God, you're Darren, Georgia. It's not like that level of fame at all. It's a viral video. It's definitely weird. And it's funny because like, it's something that I'll be able to look back on forever. And it is funny to think about that'll probably be played for many years to come, which I think is great. I think it's something that's going to make people laugh whenever they see it. And that's all I can ask for in that situation.
Exactly. And like I said, I saw it everywhere during the 1 year anniversary. And when it came back, like on social media, like, what was sort of your reaction, like, of sort of like the response after 1 year later? Was it something similar to when it happened a year ago?
Yeah. I mean, not nearly the volume as when it first happened, but it was just funny to see all these different accounts posting about it and talking about it. And, I didn't even realize that it had been a year since it had happened. but it was fun. I mean, it made me laugh. It made a lot of people laugh. A lot of people reached out, tagging me in it and stuff like that. But it was funny. I enjoyed it.
That's awesome. Yeah, it must have been this whole thing must have been like a really cool experience, and something where it was like a moment where it was just like a regular day for you, and then snap of a finger, like you become viral like that. Yeah. I think that's something for everybody who's like a millennial or, you know, below 30 who like understands social media. Like that's one of their dreams is to go viral. And that must have been like a really cool experience for you. But with everything that we've kind of talked about, like hopefully things can start rolling for sports to be coming back. But I'm curious, what are you looking forward to in the next upcoming season for the Bears and also the White Sox?
It's a good question. Honestly, I'm just excited for them to come back, you know, regardless of outcome. I mean, these teams are very passionate about what they do. Everybody wants to win. But I think for me, what I'm looking forward to most is just being back at the stadiums and being able to cover and tell stories again and really, you know, bring some goodness back into the world and give something people to look forward to. But yeah, I can't wait for that, you know, to be back in the stadiums.
Seriously, even without fans, the atmosphere is just going to be incredible, in my opinion. I mean, I'm curious to hear about and just like how everybody's going to be the first day back, because you know there was spring training and everything, but from the podcast I've been hearing from all the players, they're like, we left in March and I can't even believe that it's June right now and I'm still in my house with my family right now. And it's something where it's been a shock for everybody. For me, my entire junior year got thrown in the trash with COVID. Thank God I'm not a senior, but at the same time, like it's crazy how everybody's life sort of blew up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a strange year. It's a strange time, but you know, the way I've been looking at it is we're all going through this together. It's not you're alone in this. Everybody's kind of experiencing the same thing. And we got to get through it together. I mean, no matter who you root for, no matter your team affiliation, I think we're stronger as a human race getting through it together. And I think when they do come back, it'll be a very exciting thing for a lot of people. And I myself obviously cannot wait. And when it does, like you said, it'll be a very special time.
Absolutely. Well, it's June right now, so hopefully the next 6 months of 2020 will be the best yet. And I really appreciate you coming on the show today, Darren. And if everybody wants to go over and check out Darren's website, again, it's DarrenGeorgiaPhotography.com. You can also check out his Instagram as well. It's Darren Georgia. Thanks so much for coming on today, Darren.
Thank you again for having me.